tell, then you see the road. I'm out to my soul into the size whenever the smoke clear out of my face and my picture perfect.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to Cypherfics. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the third part of What If BEN10 Meets the Boys? Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of fan62 on fanfiction.net. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. 7 Tower. As Stillwell and Homelander discussed the Baltimore mayor, a news broadcast came up as the Deep was finished with his report of the downed plane. F him again. Homelander grits. Since it was muted he only went by the headline. Shifter saves apartment building full of families. The video shows heat blast running inside and then the subsequent flames disappear slowly. Another video shows him visibly absorbing the fire. Stillwell then grabs the remote to unmute it as a live feed of heat blast comes on. Can you answer a few questions? A reporter asks. I'm a hero, I save lives, can't waste time like VOT posers. He jabs before running and taking off. Another critical remark of VOT's heroes as Shifter continues to save lives. The newscaster said. But the noise fades as Homelander grinds his teeth in anger. Scene cut. In another part of the city, a teenage blonde girl was standing on top of a building and was working up the nerve to jump. I wouldn't do that. A deep voice tells her from behind. The girl turns around and sees the hulking form of Diamond Head. Go away. She tells him. Sorry, can't. Diamond Head replies, taking a few steps forward. Hero. Gestures to himself then to her. Life in danger. So you're gonna catch me or something? She asks. No, otherwise you're gonna do it again. Diamond Head replies, taking some more steps until he's next to her. I'm just here to listen. Tio what? The girl says. Whatever you're gonna say. Though I'd like to know why you wanna, you know. The alien answers before pointing to the ground. I don't want to talk about it. She says defiantly. Okay. Ben relents. Name's Diamond Head. He introduces but gets no reply. And you are? Julia. She answers, quietly. Julia. Diamond Head says. People call you Jules or Jay or something. Jules sometimes. So, the rock-like alien DRGS. What do you want to talk about? Julia then turns to him with a baffled expression. Do you even know what you're doing? She asks. Not really. Diamond Head admits. This is honestly my first time stopping a suicide, before the attempt. He informs. Then Julia begins to lift her leg to take the last final step, except. I can only imagine what you're going through right now. The alien tells her, making her stop. I mean, it must be really bad. I'm lucky I only landed in a kind of unknown world and likely won't see my family again, but that's just me. He shares. Are you trying to make me feel more like SHT? Julia asked incredulously. 'Cause I don't need your help with that. I'm just being honest. Diamond Head replied. You probably have a better reason than me to jump off. Julia doesn't reply, causing Ben to ask. Right? No, actually. Julia finally admits before taking a step back, then a few more. Great, now I feel stupid. Obviously a hero has more important stuff in SHT than I do. Gestures to him before she starts crying. Hey, don't be like that. Diamond Head tells here. There's always gonna be someone hurting more than you, it doesn't mean you're pain or you don't matter. It informs, while she wipes her tears and sniffs. I don't know how to help you after this. Diamond Head admits. But the first step in dealing with a problem is talking about it. Eventually Julia takes a deep breath and starts to walk away, but turns back to give Diamondhead a hug. Careful, he urges before she hits him full force. Or you'll end up like Roadrunner. He informs her and she slowly wraps her arms around him. He then reciprocates this with an awkward pat. After a few seconds she starts to leave, but before she goes through the door she turns back. Thanks, she simply says before closing the door. Diamondhead smiles satisfied with the results. Should have let her jump first. A new, but familiar voice comments and Ben's crystal face turns sour. Turning around he sees Homelander float down and onto the roof. Would have made for a better show. He adds. I helped her. Diamondhead replies. That's what a hero does, not for the fame. But you like the attention. Homelander points out, taking a few steps to the side. It's only natural, after all it comes with the job. Yeah, but unlike you I don't think I'm God. Diamondhead tells him. To them we are. Homelander replies, referring to the civilians without powers. They build us statues, make art, songs and even food too. He reasons. Have you tried a Homelander burger with freedom fries? Delicious. He adds, exaggerating the hell. You mean all that dumb stuff Vought pays people to do in order psychologically manipulate idiots? Diamondhead responds. The only reason you're close to getting in the military is because there's hardly been anyone saying no. That and bureaucracy. Nothing is gonna stop us. Homelander tells the alien. And nothing will. Except me. Ben points out. You're one guy. Who has beaten at least a half dozen of Vought's little trick-or-treaters. The Petrosapien reminds him. Let's go over the list. The two then begin walking in a circle. First day I made a fool of A-Train, Maeve and Noir as Wildmutt. Then as Heat Blast took on the Cold Couple, then Upgrade stopped Noir and Wildvine pounded Bluehawk into the dirt. He lists off. Diamondhead snaps his fingers. Oh, and Forearms gave you a run for your money. Points at Homelander. And then you ran. Homelander recalls. You didn't beat me. Diamondhead says. Only one of the 7 I haven't fought is Starlight, and that's 'cause she's new. This causes Homelander to stop. Starlight but. Yup. Diamondhead says. Transloser and I had a nice little chat. He informs him. Hopefully by telling him this Homelander will focus on him rather than finding Translucent. As Homelander's eyes lit red with anger and was about to attack, he heard a drone. Looking back he saw it was filming them but couldn't tell whose it was. Wanna go another round? The alien asks, his arm turning into a blade. This isn't over. Homelander says before flying off. As he leaves the drone comes close and Ben looks at it strangely. Thanks. He simply says before walking through the door Julia entered. He couldn't change here, so hopefully he could in the complex. New Jersey. Voila. Frenchie comments, holding up a green-tipped bullet. Enough to penetrate the skin, but not to hurt him much. Gives the bullet to Butcher, who examines it before loading it into a pistol. Here you go. Swings the gun to Huey. Me, Huey exclaims, then points to himself. Why? 'Cause it was your idea. Butcher reminds him. You got until Frenchie is done with the shotgun and then we off him. Huey stutters and says. Look, I've never even held a gun before, okay? Except a Nerf gun. That's what this is. Butcher lifts up the gun to eye level. AF Nerf gun. So just point shoot, and if it works and if it don't then it don't. Either way. Walks to Huey. That soup is going into the ground tonight. He adds in a hushed tone, thrusting the gun to his chest. Huey then hesitantly takes it before walking into Translucent's cell and shutting the door. Frenchie glances at Butcher before working into turning the remaining shards into shotgun ammunition. In the defunct cooler. So, listen, I need to ask you some questions about A-Train. Huey begins, holding the gun with the barrel pointed down. When he, burst through that woman the other day, Robin Ward. He says with a pause, trying to play it nonchalant. I need to know why. Where was he going? What was he doing? Why? Was she your sister? The currently invisible man asked. Girlfriend? He then asked, which caused Huey to look away slightly. Girlfriend. That's what all this is about. Christ. What makes you think I know anything about it? I know you and A-Train were tight. You guys came up together. Huey remembers growing up. What are you, AF fan? Translucent retorts. Listen, those guys in there, they want to kill you, okay? Huey informs. So you give me something, maybe I can. He drifts off. What? Hold them off. Translucent says with total skepticism. 'Cause they hang on your every word. You're the big man around here. He remarks sarcastically. With that little PP gun in your hand, huh? Huey shakes his head with a sigh. Look, your dash, he was cut off when he used his gun hand to point at Translucent and accidentally fired it. OSHT. He drops it after hearing the large bark of the gun firing. F. Translucent exclaims as he becomes visible and Huey can see him pressing his hand on his right cheek. There Huey can see a stream of BLD coming out. The F is that? The 7-member asked. Like that? Huey asked. 'Cause that was the smallest piece of diamond head we had. Translucent then has a look of realization. In about 5 minutes one of them is gonna take a shotgun of that SHT to your face. He tells him. Bullshit. Translucent replies, seeing it as a bluff. Just then the door opens revealing a smiling Butcher holding a pump-action shotgun. You wish CNT. He says, then loads a shell. Hold still. Pumps it with a single hand motion like in a movie. Wait for the flash. Aims. Say cheese. He finishes with a smile. Whoa 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 hey. Stop. Huey tries but with a single hand to the chest Butcher stops him. You had your chance. Butcher tells him. CNT ain't talking and now he's never gonna talk again. Re-aims the gun. Pop claw. Translucent suddenly shouts, just as Butcher is about to pull the trigger. A tense silence follows. Keep talking. Butcher tells him. I don't know where A-Train was going that night he killed the girl. Translucent resumes. Okay, but I know where he was coming from. Pop claw. Butcher finishes. Her place. Translucent clarifies. He loves her. He doesn't think anyone else knows, but I know. I know a lot of things. But he's there every night. Maybe now, even. What was he carrying? Butcher asks, gun still pointed at Translucent. I don't know. Translucent admits, then adds. But I have a good idea. What? Butcher asks. Compound V. Translucent answers, getting some raised eyebrows. The F is that? Butcher wants to know. Look, I'm not saying any more SHT until I'm not in some F-dog cage. Translucent negotiates. Butcher then smiles cheerfully, but somehow still menacingly. Well, let's see if we can do something about that. Walks out with Huey. As Huey closes the door he lets out a sigh of relief. That was F. Huey says. Good work. Butcher compliments, before turning to Frenchie. How's Plan B, Frenchie? He asks. The gunrunner then swears in French. So what now? Huey asks. Call your FBI friends or CIA, NSA, the IRS. He wonders. And tell them what? Butcher replies. That the only thing we got on this CNT is an empty threat. He tells him. Empty. Huey replies confused. The shards are too small. Frenchie informs. But I just. Gestures inside where the shard-tipped bullet grazed Translucent's cheek. Gave him a cut but won't go much deeper. Butcher clarifies. Now we're back to square one. Frenchie says. F. Huey gasps, running his hands through his hair. Well, what about what Ben said? About his insides being vulnerable? He suggests. And like I said, we got no poison or whatever the F that will kill him. Butcher reminds him. Frenchie then grabs the electric baton and sparks it. What are you doing? Butcher asks. Shocking our invisible friend. I need him unconscious. Frenchie explains before going inside. With Starlight and Deep. As the newest member of the Seven finished threatening the Deep, a man was tossed out of the warehouse. The warehouse they were supposed to be in. The F. Deep gasps, before diving into the water. Inside the warehouse, Ben was Ripjaws and began knocking the DRG dealers left and right. He caught them by surprise by shooting out of the wooden floors as they were inspecting the shipment. As he was tossed the last goon on the ground, the doors opened, revealing Starlight, who looked flabbergasted. Well, Ripjaws DRGS. If it isn't the Seven's newest superstar. Chuckles. Get it? Superstar. Laughs harder. Starlight shakes her head in confusion. You're Shifter. She realizes, seeing the Omnitrix insignia. Ripjaws actually. Ben clarifies. As Starlight's eyes light up to use her powers, Dio shoots out of the hole Ripjaws made earlier. Hey punk. He calls out, getting Ripjaws' attention. You're about to get washed up. He says, walking towards the alien. Deep then whines for a punch, but Ripjaws throws a right jab to his face. Deep reels back from this, touched his cheek, not believing what transpired. He then goes for another punch and manages to swing it, but Ripjaws merely steps to the right so he can deliver a left punch to the gut. This knocks the wind out of Dio, who clutches his torso as he struggles to breath. Wow, you're lame. Ripjaws says, totally unimpressed and very underwhelmed. I mean, couldn't you have tried to make me do your bidding? I'm a fish. He points out. I talk to them. Deep wheezes out. Not control them. He informs. Then Starlight fires her light blast, sending Ripjaws crashing into some crates. The fish alien shakes his head and says. Well, you seem to know what you're doing. He compliments as he gets up. Just wish I was 4 arms. Starlight then advances, intending this to be a close-range fight. With limited electricity, she has to rely on her reserves to fight, especially at night. She goes for a punch, but Ripjaws leans back, getting out of her range. Annie then used her other hand to fire another blast of light, this one more powerful. Which sent the fish-like alien through the wall. Ouch. Ben comments as he gets back up. Had enough? Starlight asks, her eyes lighting up as she drains powers from the lights outside. So suddenly the illuminated side of the warehouse was considerably darkened. Ripjaws then laughs. 2.5, he simply says. What are you talking about? Starlight asks. How many of you Vought dweebs actually have any skill? Ripjaws answers. Then, like with Homelander earlier, the two circle each other. You and Black are the only ones that actually give me a challenge. Princess could, but she doesn't care enough, hence the 0.5. Should I take that as a compliment? Starlight asks. Yeah. Ripjaws answers. I mean, out of anyone on this earth. Gestures all around him. I'm the only one who faced anyone with powers. Name one bad guy with superpowers here. Before Starlight could reply, a hand shoots from under Ripjaws. Wah. He utters before Deep pulls him down. Starlight runs to the hole and looks down. Into the dark waters with a squint, hoping to see something. Nothing happens. Until the two water breathers shoot up and Deep punches Ripjaws into a wooden post. This caused the floor under Annie to be unstable and she falls, but saved herself by grabbing onto the remaining part of the wood not broken with her fingertips. In the water Ripjaws recovered and forming his fish tail swam down and charged Deep. The soup was distracted looking up Starlight's skirt, so Ben easily tackled him into another support pillar. The shock of which caused Starlight, who was trying to climb back up, to fall back down to her original spot. Ripjaws kept swimming and smashed Deep through multiple pillars. Eventually this caused a large section of the wooden ground above them to fall. Ripjaws easily got out of the way, but the discombobulated Deep was hit by all of that debris and sank. Smirking Ripjaws began swimming away when he noticed Starlight was sinking with some debris that her cape got caught on. And unlike Deep, she couldn't breathe underwater. The light hero pulled furiously, and even though she could punch through brick walls and lift a car, underwater it's a whole different law of physics. Eventually she managed to rip off some debris and began to swim. However, growing up in landlocked Iowa, she wasn't much of a swimmer, so she couldn't swim fast and she was low on air. Soon the newest member of the Seven began blacking out and her strokes became less and less strong. Until finally she couldn't go anymore, and the last thing she saw was something swimming at her. The next thing she felt was her being placed on the ground. Annie soon began coughing up water and tried to rise up but fell back down. She was able to catch a glimpse of Ripjaw's legs walking back into the water. However, she could do little except let her eyes close. Scene cut. At a gala in Vought, Madeline Stillwell and other employees were busy trying to charm the pants off the people who could get them what they wanted. Soups in the U.S. Armed Forces. Except there were some problems, referring to the shifter situation. Why should we pay you a fortune when some guy is doing your job better than you for free? One chairman asked. Cheaper isn't better. Stillwell commented. It is to the voters. The chairman replies. Especially 'cause he took down at least 5 of your guys. Stillwell chuckles. Exaggerations. So him blowing up Blue Hawk as a plant was an exaggeration. The senator tells her. Still nothing like the Seven. Stillwell tries. They're the best. Didn't Homelander and Maeve get their asses handed to them the other day? He reminds her as the bartender hands a drink. Plus, according him, he has a whole arsenal at his disposal. He's still one person. Stillwell points out, her smile on the brink of faltering. Can't be everywhere at once. Well, he's here now. The chairman says, pointing up to the stage where the band has just stopped playing as XLR-8 ran on stage. Stillwell sees this and mentally curses. Hello. XLR-8 greets as he tests a microphone to make sure it's working. Greetings, political lamos of America. If I can have your attention for a bit. Homelander looks to Stillwell, who shakes her head. The last thing they needed was casualties amongst the group of people they needed on their side. Now Vought invited you here to kiss up to all of you so they can do possibly the worst thing in history. Or at least one of the worst. XLR-8 begins. Put their sorry excuse of heroes into the military, that's like giving Hitler the atomic bomb plans in 1942. A stupid, terrible, horrible bad idea that should not happen. Obviously none of you really want that, but they have resources and heroes does air quotes to blackmail or threaten you. XLR-8 continues. Including their own shapeshifter. He reminds them. And I know this is gonna be very hard for you, but have some common sense and say no to Vought. Because last I checked, privatizing an army is against what the founding fathers wanted. With that, I'm gonna go. He adds before looking into the audience. Home loser looking forward to our next round. Same for Maeve and Noir on round 3, maybe you'll actually win. With that, XLR-8 leaves, leaving the mic to drop. How are you gonna top that? The senator asks, before walking away. F. Madeline says under her breath. With the boys. We can't kill him. Huey urges after they inform Translucent of the bomb up his ass. Sure we can. Butcher says joyfully. Just push the button and bang. Holds up the device. Weren't you listening? We have like a treasure trove of information from him, on VOT, 7 and A train. Huey reminds him. The longer he's around gives Homelander and the 7 more time to find us. Butcher counters. And all that information will be useless if we're dead. What are we going to tell Petit Benny? Frenchie asks. Well, we tell Benji dash, Butcher begins. Tell me what? Ben interrupts, entering the old kitchen. Tell you that our favorite invisible CN sung like a canary. Butcher lies. Sweet. Ben smiles. Now let's call your Fed friends. He suggests. Let's do that. Butcher agrees. In fact, one lives not too far, but we ended things sour. Plus we need to make sure the S stays. Frenchie reminds them. Oh, don't worry about that. Ben shrugs. Gray matter made it so even if he goes to the bathroom on that, a backup will turn on. And if he touches the bars after that, he'll be knocked out. Looks to a screen monitoring the cage. Like right now, so glad he's staying invisible. They all turned to the screen and saw sparks on the battery, then heard a loud F. As Translucent tried to exit the cage. See. Ben says. Right. Butcher nods, then grabs his jacket. Listen boys, Benji and I will meet up our Fed friend and you take care of the CNT. He directs. All works well, we won't have to be back. Why do I need to come? Ben asks. 'Cause they're gonna want to know who our biggest gun is now. Butcher informs. And I need a kid to meet the contact, it'll look weird without it. As they leave, Frenchie and Huey look to each other. You have the night. Frenchie says, putting out the remainder of his cigarette. Then we blow his ass. Huey just stares at the trigger, then at the sign that says to keep your hands clean. Scene cut, morning. Susan Rayner hoped today would be a good day. Thanks to her new position, she had greater control of her schedule. She has weekends off to spend with her 2 kids. Which she was doing in a park with her husband at work. However, it was about to turn sour, because of a frisbee. As the 3 were walking, a frisbee hit her son's head. Ow! He exclaimed, hand going to the spot it hit. You okay? The concerned mother asked. Fine. Her son replied, rubbing the spot where it stung. Sorry. A new voice called and they turned to see a boy around her son's age coming over. Sorry about that. My uncle is a terrible catcher, no wonder he never played baseball. Just as Susan was about to play it off knowing it was an accident, she saw the uncle, and knew it was on purpose. F. She whispered in a low tone. That's 'cause I play cricket, none of which is same. The British uncle said. Now say you're sorry. He orders. He already did. The daughter said. Well, I again do apologize. He says politely to the kid, then notices Susan. Sussy, is that you? He asks with a smile, using a nickname she knows he never uses. You know him, Mom? The son asks. Of course we do. The uncle replies with the biggest smile. Name's William Butcher, we go way back. It's been years. Too long. Susan replies with a fake smile. You have a nephew? Yeah, sort of. Butcher answered. Dad is an old friend of mine and the parents wanted some adult time, you know. His name is Benjamin, I call him Benji. Places his hand on Ben's shoulder. A few moments of silence follows until Butcher says. Hey, why don't we catch up for a bit and let the kiddies play? Butcher suggests, then covers Ben's ears. Plus I'm really tired of hearing his video game idea over and over. Uncovers the ears. Heard that. Ben tells him. Can we, Mom? The daughter asks, wanting to play. Yeah, can we? The son also asks. Okay. The mother reluctantly agrees and the three children go off to play. When they do, Susan's face turns cold. "You got some F-ball on you," she tells Butcher. "Thank you." Butcher accepts. "But they're really average, but it's the other part that's impressive and you know it." "What do you want?" Susan asks, getting to the point. "If it's the Mallory files, I told you to F off." She adds. "Thanks for the reminder." Butcher replies. "I will be needing those, but first ask me what's news." He tells her. "I don't have time for games, Butcher." Susan tells him, crossing her arms and regretting she didn't bring her gun. "Too bad I do." Butcher says too cheerfully. "What's new?" the deputy director asks with venom. "Oh, not much." Butcher replies with a shrug. "Just have Translucent by the ball." "Bullshit," Susan replied. And Butcher continues. "My newest recruits is the only soup who can and has taken on the 7 and 1. Bull sht. Raynor repeated slowly. "You're telling me you have the shifter in one pocket and Translucent in the other. If you had either, Translucent would either be dead and there'd be a Godzilla fight. You can ask him yourself if you don't believe me." Gestures to Ben, who was talking with her kids. "No way that F-kid is shifter." Susan replies. "The reason he's a kid is the only reason I'm here." Butcher tells her. "I can't kill Translucent in front of him and I can't just fire him like a howitzer at Homelander. And because he's a kid that gives us an edge. You're F messed up." Susan tells him. "You want to turn an impressionable kid into your hitman?" "No." Butcher denies. "The kid was already going after Vought like it was his F dream. Only difference is we're aiming him and he actually follows all that CRP TV spews on justice and all that nobody follows. You made it suicide to go after the soups." Susan reminds him. "The director will not go for this. If you don't bring it to him, we will." Butcher threatens. "And imagine what he'll say if you didn't bring this to him." Susan chuckles, while glancing to her kids. "Now you're just desperate." First day Shifty took on Train, Maeve and Noir as AF dog in one. Butcher informs her. If he wanted to, he'd barge straight through the doors and ask his secretary for a meeting. "If he does that and you actually give us something, I'll agree to all your little F demands you were gonna make." Susan tells him, calling his bluff. "Here are the demands then." Butcher replies, then takes out a folded piece of paper. The deputy director grabs it and unfolds it. Funding, security of loved ones, Mallory files, Homelander on a silver platter. She reads like it's a grocery list, then raises an eyebrow. Sit at the big desk, a badge and a helicopter. Looks at Butcher with a baffled expression. "Kid added those last ones." Butcher answers. The CIA worker then crumbles it up before tossing it in a nearby recycling. "F you and stay away from my family." She orders the walks away to get her kids. When the three leave, Ben turns to his uncle and asks. "So was that good, or do we go with the fun way now?" Butcher looks down at him and replies. "Fun way it is." "Sweet." Ben cheers. "Let's bust into the CIA." Starts running to the car, which causes Butcher to chuckle. "F kid. CIA." Susan Raynor sighed as she walked to her boss's office. No doubt just being seen in public with Butcher made her superiors angry. Still, she hoped she would have at least until tomorrow morning, but no, it was just 2 hours later. Thankfully her husband was home and her kids were understanding, at least for now. "You wanted to see me, sir?" Susan said as she walked in and saw the chair was turned out to face the city. "Hello there, Susie." The voice of XLR8 said, turning around in the chair, surprising the deputy. "So nice to see you again. Believe me now?" Butcher asked, from an obscure corner of the room, nearly giving Susan a heart attack. "UF prick," she called him. "Careful now." Butcher replied with an disappointed look, before pointing to the alien. We have a child present. At the Ben tapped the insignia and in a blinding red flash he became human. Boom! He cheered as only CIA employee went slack-jawed. FYI, I'm adding to my demands. He informs before leaning back on the chair and putting his feet up like he owned it. Jersey, translucent holding cell. Look, just tell us. Huey urged the invisible soup. I told you, when I'm not in a fricking bee cage. The 7-member said. Huey has been at it for hours trying to get more information from Translucent. He even has the detonator in his hands, but Translucent saw that as an empty threat. Huey didn't have the nerve, at least not yet. Start talking or I'll do it. Huey demands, holding up the trigger. Enough of that FSHT. Translucent said with annoyance. You're too much of a PP to do it. Come on, you can still walk out of this as the guy who saved Translucent. The soup suggested. No looking over your shoulder if we're coming after you. 'Cause we will. But free me, you'll be on the F news, you'll getting AF ton of money and bees will be all over you. Any of them gonna be Robin? Huey asks. F Christ. Translucent groans. She ain't coming back, that's reality. Move on. Honestly, if she was doing you then that begot dash, he was cut off with splat as Huey pressed the button. Exploding Translucent from the inside out and getting covered in his BLD and guts. Huey just stared with a blank expression. CIA. Butcher, Rayner and the CIA director were discussing the finer details of the arrangement in the director's office. Slight complication. CMT's actually dead now. He informs casually. FSHT Butcher. Susan tells the Brit. Now Susan. The director tries to calm her. This is even F worse than before. Susan reminds him. We could have managed a witness statement, but now we got SHT. We should be arresting his butt. You think Vought is gonna be okay with that? Butcher asks. They'll track me and if they find me they'll make me spill the F beans. If they don't kill me first. I'll send an edible arrangement to your funeral. The deputy director replied. She has a point, Butcher. The director adds. When you and Velociraptor. XLR-8. Butcher corrected. Broke in. The director continued. I'd agree to your demands if you gave me something solid. Told you we got a lead. Butcher reminds him. A lead isn't evidence in a court of law. The director reminded. We need actual SHT, like Translucent statement, which you no longer have. Deathbed confession. Butcher counters. Except nobody gives AF SHT about something they don't know and we don't either. Susan tells him, looks back at the director. Sir, I worked with FR and it's like a kid with a grenade, if he doesn't blow himself up he'll blow all of us up. Except I got Shifter. Butcher reminds. And he wants no casualties. Except you got a dead soup. Susan points out. That he ain't gonna know about. Butcher assures. Why do you think I brought him here? If I really needed those files I'd have just taken M. So this was also a diversion? The director asks. Only if you say no. Butcher tells him. With this kid we can take down Vought, and make sure it stays down. And unlike with your average soup the worst thing he'll do is stop helping us. How can you be sure? Susan asks with total skepticism. After learning Ben was the shifter she was tempted to shoot him for being near her kids. Here. Butcher says pulling up footage on his phone showing Heatblast's fight with Ice Prince and Ice Princess. Particularly the Pyronite holding back because of civilians and leaving when the two Vought soups were down. Despite having an opportunity to do more damage. Kid's a genuine hero. Butcher says with a soft tone, neither of the other two heard before. Despite whatever CRP he's gone through he still has that naive innocence about doing the right thing because it's the right thing. Including helping me, of all people. He tells them. Wow. Susan says impressed. Did you rehearse that or does CRP naturally flow from your mouth? Butcher ignores her and focuses. Your choice. Yes or no. But either we're going after Vought and when we beat those CNTS, you're gonna wish you were a part of it. A moment of silence follows before the director says. What happens when Homelander comes in? I remember your obsession with him. So if it was anyone else you'd say yes. Butcher asks. It's a no either way. The director tells him. Before they can go any further, Ben comes in with a soda. Remember, tell Jerry that if he doesn't take you to that parade you'll go with someone else who can. Walks to one of the chairs. Hey, what parade are they talking about? He asks. 'Cause your gatekeeper has been really frustrated about it with her husband. Parade? Butcher asks. Something to do with Trojan. Ben adds. What is a Trojan? The three then understood. So did they say yes? Ben asks with a smile, thinking they said yes. But he sees the look in Butcher's eyes and realizes. Come on, we literally have one of Vought's favorite dweebs trapped like a dog. None of them mention his death. Ben gets up and goes up the desk. What's it gonna take for a yes? He asks. The director then averts Ben's gaze and replies. Look, you seem like a nice kid. Looks up with a weird look in his eye. But there's factors here you don't understand dash. Ben looks at the laptop and dials an alien. Kid. Butcher calls, knowing what Ben might do. But before he could do anything, Ben transforms into Upgrade. Let's see what you're hiding. Ben says as he grabs the laptop and begins hacking into it. Raynor on instinct pulls out her gun, but Ben is faster and he knocks it out of hand. That's not nice. As the director reaches for his gun, Butcher points one of his own. Please go ahead. He dares. Upgrade through the laptop and sees nothing out of the ordinary. However, he found a file on Mount Rushmore. He sent that to his phone and began searching other documents. After a few moments he put down the laptop. Okay, looks like you're not dirty. But I still got the location of the Mallory files. Upgrade informed. Now what? Susan asked, slowly reaching for her backup piece. Well, we take them, obviously. Ben tells her plainly. You guys take Translucent and I don't blurt to the world I broke into your files and compromised your security. Turns to the director. FYI, I changed your password to I'm a dweeb in all caps. Fine. The director agreed. But no contact after this. Deal. Upgrade assured. I thought you guys would be cool. But you're just lame. Starts to walk to the door. Smell you later. Walks out. Butcher gets up a moment later, but before he leaves he says. Thanks. Then walks out. Vought. Starlight just got out of the bathroom after getting ready and getting hounded by Ashley. After being saved by Ripjaws last night, Annie woke up in a trailer for a movie set. Turns out the crime was supposed to filmed as if it were a TV show. After changing into plain clothes she headed back to the tower, but stopped a possible RPE. Unfortunately she did it wrong. So now she has to meet Stillwell, possibly to get fired. As she was walking back to her room she heard a presence behind her thanks to her slightly enhanced hearing. Turning around she saw a kid, around 10 years old, wearing black pants, a red zip-up hoodie with black hair down to her shoulders. Hi. Starlight greeted. You lost? She asked and the girl shook her head, but smiled. You're Starlight. The girl simply says. Well, Annie answers gesturing to her sleepwear. Not right now. I'm Elena, Elena Validus. The girl introduces. I'm Annie January. Starlight reciprocates. What are you doing here? Elena answers. I heard you joined the Seven. She answers. You're my favorite and I wanted to meet you. Oh. Annie replied, feeling flattered. Before they could talk any further, the girl said, "Sorry, gotta go." Then took off. Moments later a security guard came and asked about her whereabouts. To which Annie pointed in the opposite direction. Scene cut. Stillwell sighed as she got off the phone with Doppelganger. Apparently the senator wasn't okay with being blindfolded or tied up, so now they had nothing on him. What's worse is Ashley informed her of the mission that Shifter decided to crash. Whatever crime team he has must have been paid double. On the bright side, they got footage of Starlight kicking Ripjaw's butt and saving Deep, so there was that at least. Plus minimal damage, meaning nothing out of pocket, this time. Still, it was clear the Shifter was going to be an enemy of Vought. An enemy who has equal footing against their heroes. She swore as drone footage showed Diamond had prevented a girl from committing suicide. Without using reasons like religion, duty and other Vought-like ethos, pathos and logos. Scene cut. In another part of the building there was room. It was lit up entirely by sad lamps and was empty. Except in the middle was a large table with a grayish form on it. It opened its single eye and jerked up slightly. Outside Vought. Ben was running around the city as XLR8, helping people and stopping crime. Suddenly he heard a cry. "Help me." With a sudden stop the Kinesillaran looked around frantically. What the heck was that? Looks around and sees no signs of trouble, except maybe some potential paparazzi. With that he continued his patrol. Quito, Ecuador, Bella Vista neighborhood. In one of the city's wealthiest neighborhoods a mansion was abandoned, seemingly after a party. Only it wasn't abandoned, the people attending fled in terror as La Quimera raided another place. The beast as per usual was stuffing his face when his wild mutt senses kicked in. The former New Yorker said as stepped in front of a door. "I wonder what's behind door number 1. Opens it and sees 2 young boys clinging onto each other. "Oh kids." Kevin lamented in a bored tone. "Lay 'em." He complains, then goes back to food. The 2 kids then slowly peer out and seeing that he's not gonna attack them try to leave. Only instead of leaving the house they go to a door that's locked and struggle to open it. La Quimera sees this and raises an eyebrow. "What's down there?" he demands to know. "El Satano." The elder one says, backing away. "Tesoro." He adds, pointing to the frantically hiding his brother behind his back. "Treasure, huh?" Kevin smiled, having grown up in New York City he knew a bit of Spanish. "Me likey," he says, then goes the door and punches it open. The stairway down is narrow, so it would be annoying for him to go through, so he just punched the ground under him. Once down there he illuminated the basement with his firearm. He turned and saw a large, expensive and state-of-the-art safe. Jackpot. He spoke, then heard a sound behind him. Turning around he aimed his arm and was ready to shoot a fireball. Only to see a cage containing 4 women, all dirty and huddled at the back, terrified. "What?" Kevin asked, then the lights turned on. The 2 boys then came down and shouted several names and the girls responded. "Whatever." Kevin scoffed and tore open the safe with ease. Inside was a stockpile of Ecuadorian and American bills. "Such hospitality," the mutated child said as he filled a bag of it. Once he got a few bags he planned to burn it, like what he did to others. But then looked at the kids struggling to open the safe, then back to the still, large pile of money. They did help. A small voice spoke in the back of his, sounding suspiciously familiar. Walking up to the cage he grabbed the lock and pulled it, breaking it. The stunned children and occupants stared at him as he walked to a wall and broke down a hole. "Thanks for the help," he commented before walking out as the 6 of them went to grab the cash and leave before the police or military came. With Ben. Upgrade floated down the alley where a couple of kids were picking on someone and asked, "Do we have a problem here?" Then the 3 bullies took off, but Ben just walked to the downed kid with glass. "You okay?" He asks, helping him up. Fine. The kid replies in a sad tone, then looks to his destroyed project. Upgrade notices this and grabs it. It had some electrical parts on it, so he absorbed it momentarily. Then seconds later gave it to the now smiling kid as he fixed it. Let's get you home. Ben tells him and they start walking. I'm Andrew. The kid introduces as they start walking to his house. I'm Upgrade. Ben introduces as they exit. Scene cut. Homelander was waiting for Maeve so they could defeat this gunman together. When she stepped off, she saw Homelander waiting patiently. But as they went inside, they saw Stinkfly flying away with their target. F. Homelander grunted. The gunfire must have masked the buzzing of the wings. Great. Maeve groaned. Stealing our SHT again. Down on the ground, Ben handed the criminal to the local authorities. Make better life choices. Stinkfly said before going up as news reporters tried to crowd him. However, they were distracted when Homelander came down, and being the show hog, he gladly accepted their attention. Meanwhile, Stinkfly looked down and saw a college kid holding up his camera at him. And not Homelander. So he flew down and said, "Trade, an interview in exchange for you covering something of my choice." What? The stunned kid replied. You're a journalist or a reporter, right? The bug alien asked, and the kid nodded. You get an exclusive of me, and in return I want you to do a report on something of my choosing. Yes, sweet. Totally. The kid agreed. Time for takeoff. Stinkfly says as he picks up the kid to have a conversation elsewhere. With Butcher. Big lump of C4 packed right up his fudger. Boom. Claret everywhere, F diabolical. Butcher explains how they killed Translucent, using a pen to help. But before the fireworks, he coughed up a solid lead. Spilled the beans in a big way. Now, we play this right, we could shake up the whole hornet's nest, bring down Seven and Vought at the same time. He tells Mother's Milk. This is about Homelander and Becca. Correctly. Always is. It's different this time. Butcher tells him. How so? The prison worker asks. Instead of telling him, Butcher notices the TV and points to the display of the news. Yes, see him. Points to a recording of an interview Stinkfly did for some blogger. The new soup that's kicking Vots as on a daily basis. Jins then shakes his head. Nope. He's my latest recruit. Butcher told him. Now that's some mother F bullshit if I ever heard it. Mother's Milk calls out. That's what Susan said. Butcher tells. The F. Dunham gasps. You got her back. What, no? Butcher denies. Tried to get the whole CIA, but since we killed the CN they can't help until we get some evidence. The family man looked at him skeptically. Susan told you that? Her boss did. Was the answer. So no lies and secrets. Milk asked for confirmation. Between learning about Translucent, Shifter and the CIA he was seriously considering it. Slight wrinkle there, mate. Butcher said, making the larger man groan. Shifty don't know that the CNT's in pieces. And why the hell not? Mother's Milk asks, leaning back. He'll kill you. Nah. Butcher shakes his head. He'll just go off on his own is all. He theorizes. Which we can't have. He's the howitzer you've been looking for. Dunham guesses. Butcher laughs and leans on the table. He's the entire F arsenal. Pauses. He can be slimy, fast or strong or any F shape and size. You writing his theme song now? Asks, jokingly then adds. But I ain't lying for you, least not if we're supposed to work together again. Tell you what. Butcher begins. You take a one look at him, even just a glance, and if you still think I should spill the beans, I'll dump the whole SHT. He offers. Just a look. Milk questions, and Butcher nods. All right. Agrees. Later. Butcher with the newly re-recruited Mother's Milk were in a truck outside Popclaw's building. Though only one was satisfied with the accommodations. A rental, you cheap bstrd. Tells the Brit. Who do you think I am, some 00 wanker? Butcher asks as they ready the equipment. In case you hadn't noticed, we ain't exactly rolling in it. He reminds him. And you don't think this is conspicuous? The prison worker points out. Conspicuous? No, I don't think it's conspicuous. Butcher tells him before adding. I think a big black van with flowers on the side is conspicuous. This is just another truck on the street. He finishes. Suddenly a series of knocks were heard and 2 more people entered. Huey, who went to the new guy. Hi. Huey. The greenhorn introduced himself to the veteran. However, noticed Frenchie and the two immediately began going at it. With Butcher keeping the two apart, even as Frenchie pulled a knife. Butcher, who is this guy? Huey exclaimed, not knowing the history, as he was pushed up against the wall. You'll give the game away. Butcher tells them. Not until this frog gets what's coming. Replies. Only thing that is coming is me on your mother's ties. Frenchie shoots back. Let me at him, B. Milk urges and the two try to get closer, but Butcher keeps them apart. Hey. Butcher calls out. We had an agreement about him. Mother's Milk reminded him. Especially since Butcher commented about not seeing Frenchie in years. We agreed to put a pin in it, all right? Butcher tells him. What agreement? Frenchie asks at the same time Mother's Milk says. There was no pin. I don't trust this French ware. Offended by that comment, in anger Frenchie replies. I am more American than you racist piece of SHT. Why are they fighting? Huey wants to know. Nothing. It is water under the bridge. Butcher tries to play off. You tell that to Mallory's grandkids. Mother's Milk reminds the Brit. The incident in question being replayed in his head as if it happened yesterday. Instead of years ago. Tell them it's water under the bridge. He adds. Frenchie then had a mixture of hurt and horror on his face. That wasn't my fault. He tells him, knife dropping slightly. Who is Mallory? Huey says, asking his third question. All right, the both of you, knock it on the head, now. Butcher orders. Taking deep breaths, M and Frenchie dropped their hands and knife and backed up. So where's Shifter? The only mother who you actually told me was part of this. The semi-former prison worker asks. 'Cause all I see is you, points to Butcher, a French ware and a Stephen F. Hawking. Well, it was Stephen F. Hawking that dusted the soup. Butcher informs a now shocked another pattern of knocks, this time longer and unnecessary, is heard. Here's your chance, mate. Butcher tells him before opening the door. Sup. Ben greets as he enters with a bag in tow. Sorry I'm late, needed to get snacks and had to check out something. That something was the Mount Rushmore file he got at the CIA. He hoped it meant there was plumber technology to send him home, but upon further inspection it just an idea started in the late 40s by Wrench. Never even got to a board, let alone stopped alien attacks. Looks at Ben, then at Butcher. You can't be fudging serious. He says, watching his language in the presence of a child. Kid's the real deal. Butcher tells him. Show him Petit Benny. Frenchie said, gesturing to Ben's wrist. Ben lifted it and pulling back the Adidas sweatshirt revealed the omnitrix. Seeing stare at Ben, Butcher asks. Something you wanna say? This is Low Butcher. The newest member says. Which Butcher interprets as for them keeping Ben in the dark. Huey, Benji meet Mother's Milk. Butcher introduces. That like a nickname? Huey wonders. No, my mother actually named me Mother's Milk, was the reply. I can't tell if he's serious or not. Ben comments, after hearing the seriousness of his tone. What are your actual names again? He asks, seeing as how they've been calling each other by nicknames. She's home. Frenchie informs them as they go to one of the cameras. That's Popclaw, right? A-Train's girlfriend? Huey asks, not being a huge fan of her, even before the A-Train incident. After watching her enter the building and commenting, Ben asks. Why is he watching her leave like that? Seeing the landlord stare at her like a kid in a candy store. 'Cause like A-Train he want to play Barry the Bishop with her. Butcher answers, ignoring Ben's age. What? Ben asks, not knowing what that means. It means dash, Frenchie begins to clarify, but Mother's Milk interrupts him. He's a kid. The parent reminds them. So. Frenchie replies, not seeing a problem. I was his age when I saw my first naked woman. Gross. Ben says, his face twisting in disgust. Oi. Butcher calls, getting their attention. We got a job to do, all right. Let's get the bugs sorted, and see for ourselves what we can dig up. Where'd you even get this SHT, Circuit City? Huey asks, examining the so-called spy gear they had. Right? He's cheap. Mother's Milk agrees. You know, we don't actually need to sneak in anything. Huey says, coming up with an idea, piquing the interests of the others. Look, all I need's her IPv6 number. Every desktop, every smart TV in the house has a camera on it. They probably have one in every room. He informs, this plan being easier than putting a bunch of cameras and microphones. And being slightly less risky. Even in the toilet? Frenchie asks, out of the blue. Dude, gross. Ben comments. No, Frenchie, not in the toilet. Huey replies, deflating the Frenchman slightly. Look, I just need 5 minutes inside. I mean, home service is my specialty. He reminds, since his job just a few days was working at an electronics store. A few minutes later, Huey and Mother's Milk were putting on name tags and getting equipment. Remember, he's Huey, you're Gary. Ben points out, adjusting the name tags. Why can't I be Huey? Huey wonders, since he is Huey. 'Cause she can't know your real name. Butcher explains. Also, he does not look like a Gary. Ben points out. But I look like a Huey. M.M. replies. Well, Milkman, do you want to use your name, 'cause I don't think there's a lot of Mother's Milks out there. Ben counters, making Butcher snort slightly. You know, my name isn't actually Mother's Milk. He tells the kid. What is it then? Ben asks, but before he gets an answer, Butcher orders them to go. A minute or two after they leave, the sound of "Never Gonna Give You Up" is heard. F. Butcher says, realizing it's MM's phone that he forgot about. The CNT forgot his phone. So. Let it ring, he'll call her back. Frenchie replies, not seeing a problem. If he don't answer, she'll call his place of work next. Where he ain't at. Butcher informs. Answer it. Frenchie suggests. Can't she knows my voice? Butcher tells him. She knows mine too. A green flash interrupts them, and Upgrade takes the phone along with some of the other Circuit City tech. Hello. Upgrade answers on speaker, sounding like Huey. Who is this? Monique demands, in an aggressive tone. I'm Sam, it seems there's been a mix-up. Upgrade answers. Why do you have Marvin's phone? Monique asks suspiciously. Oh well, I'm the filling in for the IT guy and I'm upgrading the cameras. Upgrade answered. Yeah, I was just in his office, I guess I grabbed the wrong phone after showing each other pictures of our kids. Oh, he loves showing off Janine. Monique replies, her anger subsiding. Yeah, mine is awesome too. Upgrade says with pride. Oh no. He adds with faux worry. Something wrong? Monique asks, worried about her husband. Nothing per se, but he's really laying it on some guys. Upgrade then hisses. I almost feel bad for those kids, glad I'm not one of them. Pause. Looks like it's gonna be a while. Want me to give a message? Yeah, tell him he forgot to turn the DMN tilapia. Monique tells him. Can do. Upgrade says, before they hang up. Boom. He comments before changing back in human. Lucky I was here. Butcher smiles and looks at both Ben and the screens, now lighting up with video of Popclaw's apartment. These kids are full of surprises. Butcher compliments. After a few more minutes, Mother's Milk and Huey enter the truck. Oh, your wife is mad you forgot to turn or flip some fish. Ben informs. What? The husband asks. Forgot this. Butcher says, tossing the cell phone. Wasn't for Benji you'd be in a bigger dog house. Also call her back. Ben says. And Huey is the new guy, named Sam, for IT and your phones got mixed up. And you gave a few kiddies a speech. Frenchie reminded. That too. Ben added. Fudge all y'all. Mother's Milk told them, only gaining snorts and laughter. Vought. Elena was running in an unknown corridor of one of Vaught's floors. Security was looking for her, but no heroes. If they were, she would have been caught already. Seeing shadows ahead of her, she stopped and ran back. Only to stop shortly, realizing she was trapped. Looking around, she saw a steel door that had all sorts of security. Passcode, fingerprint, and even retinal scan. Not having any other choice, she knew what to do. Pequeño a la hora del espectáculo. Showtime, little guy. She spoke softly, holding her hand out. Suddenly a small diamond-shaped bug-like device began crawling on her palm. Once it was at her fingertips, it flew to the security systems. Eyes glowing blue, she asked her little friend to open the door. After a minute or two, that felt like a lifetime. The red lights indicating it was locked glowed green. Thanks. She appreciated politely as the little device came back to her. The door was quite heavy, but Elena managed to open it and immediately shielded her eyes. The room was white, like bright white, and it was brightly lit with a lot of lights. Putting up her hood and putting a hand above her eyes, she made out a table in the middle of the room. It had the only bit of darkness, and it was occupied by something. Who's there? A voice asked in a creepy voice. Hi. Elena greeted, closing the door and having it locked. She did not want to be caught. I'm Elena. Who are you? I don't know. The things replied, unsure. I don't remember. It said, and despite the constant menace in his tone, he sounded sad. Sorry. Elena apologized, even though she did nothing. What are you doing here? She asked, then added. And what's with all the lights? I'm a prisoner. The replied. These simulate sunlight, which burns me. He informs, then gives a demonstration by poking out a gray finger. A loud sizzle is then clearly heard. Why? Elena asked, going closer. Because they see me as a threat. It answers. Who? The human asks, stepping even closer. I don't know. The thing groans, grabbing its head. It's all fuzzy. Where am I? Vought. Elena answers simply. An audible gasp is heard. Flashback, years ago. A man wearing a lab coat, glasses was looking at something. What a unique specimen. He comments in a German accent, exposes the top of something. A sizzling sound is heard, as if eggs are being cooked or burned. However, a fatal flaw, and the supermen of Vought have none. He comments, placing back the cover. Mr. Vought. A new voice comes in. Wrench is here and he is very upset. I'll be with him shortly. Frederick Vaught, CEO and founder of Vaught America said. Flashback over. The thing rose up and Elena got a good look finally. It had the appearance of a ghost with claw-like hands, gray skin with black lines running all over him and pink eye with a black slit. Free me! He shouted terrified. This made Elena step back in shock. What? Please. The being begged. Free me. I. Elena stuttered and sounds came from the door, indicating someone was trying to come in. Oh no. Elena said scared. Let me out. The thing urged. And I'll help you escape. It offered, but Elena still wasn't sure. I can't go back. It pleaded, it's one I filled with fright, something Elena remembers feeling. How? Elena asked. The lights. The ghost like being informed. Shut them off. Elena's eyes glowed and the chip-like device flew into one of the light panels. Just then the door opened revealing 2 Vaught security guards. You! One shouted making the young girl jump. Just then the lights came off and the small chip flew back to her. The former prisoner was the only one to see in the dark and went to the girl in question and grabbed her. The two then became intangible and began passing through floors, avoiding sunlit sections, and disappeared. Oh, we're so F. One guard groaned turning on a flashlight. With the boys. As the boys, except Ben, watched the interaction between A-Train and Popclaw Mother's Milk asked. What the heck is Compound V? Translucent said A-Train might have been carrying it. Huey said. Sounds like some kind of performance enhancer. Butcher theorized. Like steroids for soups. Huey compared. And Train was on that stuff when he ran through your furl. Mother's Milk added. What are you smiling for, huh? Frenchie asked the smiling Butcher. Oh, I don't know, mate. The Brit shrugs. Maybe it's 'cause the 7 might just be a squad of manky, roid heads. He adds with a smile, knowing full well that he was right. Elsewhere in the city. Ben, as Heat Blast, was fire surfing around New York when doing his patrol when he spotted a familiar figure. Touching down on the roof in a building he stood across Homelander. Again K.I. roll. Great, what do you want now? Nothing. Homelander said, pacing slightly. Just enjoying the fresh air, taking a small stroll. Are we gonna fight or is this another one of your stern talking tos? The fire hero asked. An invitation actually. Homelander replies. Shockwave and A-Train are having their race tomorrow. I want you to show up after it's done, so that we can be done. He clarified, expression turning serious. This makes Heat Blast bellow out in laughter, much like when they first met. Just when I think you couldn't be more pathetic. Wipes a fired tear. Then here you show up, trying to schedule our final battle. Pauses to laugh. Like it's just some doctor's appointment. So you won't show? Homelander asks, feeling insulted but keeping his cool. I didn't say that. Heat Blast responds. After all, it's the race of the afternoon, of course I want to wait hours waiting to watch 2 badly named guys run in circle for a half a second. He jabs. You won't be so lucky next time. Homelander simply says before flying off. Next day. The boys and Ben were getting out of the press van they were using and readying their covers to get in. Ben meanwhile went with Butcher who was walking amongst the other fans, leaving M.M. and Huey to talk. Okay kid, so here's your role. Butcher begins. 'Cause something tells me you're already gonna be doing it. Show up, ruin the race and embarrass the 7 and Vaught. Ben guesses. Well, I was gonna say after those CNTS finish their lap, but I like your idea better. Butcher comments. Still keep them, and the cameras on you for as long possible. He adds. Really give the F-airs their money's worth. More bad publicity for the 7 means less support for soups in the army. How much is a bad ticket here? $1,000. Ben questions then looks to the concession. Also $10 for a foam finger that was made for like 10 cents in Vietnam. He comments. And their names make no sense. Like I said before. Butcher begins. Amazing what kind SHTCNTS will buy. Points to a group of A-Train fans decked out in memorabilia. Like those bunch of wankers. They don't even know the CNT and they wanna worship the F in ground for him. Until they find out the truth. Butcher adds. Everyone loves their hero, until they meet them and realize the truth. Ben says. Butcher smirks. Well, look at you. He says. Read that off AF in Fortune Cookie? He asks jokingly. My grandpa Max told me that once. Ben corrects. In my dimension he was kind of a secret hero before he retired. I asked why they never went public and he told me that was one of the reasons why. Huh, no kidding. Butcher says. Well, I say F what everybody else thinks. Worry too much about other people's opinions, you forget who you are. He tells him. Plus you'll save yourself a lot of stress. Just as the announcer was calling out the contestants, Ben took that as his K to go change. Seconds later, the same time Huey stopped Starlight from discovering Frenchie snooping around. With Huey and Annie. As Huey awkwardly asked Annie on a semi-date someone else was watching. With her hood up and hiding behind a standee, Elena saw this with sad eyes. Starlight was another sellout. She was just like Maeve and the others. If Starlight couldn't help her hide from Vought and her mom, who would? Deciding it was better to leave, she began to leave, only to stop when she spotted security talking to her mom. Quickly turning and taking off her sweater, she walked into the bleachers and found a bit of empty space next to a guy with a beard. Oi, you. Lost or something? The man rudely asked with a foreign accent. My. Elena stuttered, however her eyes briefly flashed blue. It was Chip telling her, behind you, so she looked back to see her mother directing some Vought people. Butcher looked at the girl, then at the newcomers, who were clearly Vought. Stay close and don't look. He ordered, and the girl responded to literally, clutching his leg and turning her face into his breathe leg. F hell. He muttered. As the people were walking through, one was heading towards Butcher and was close when. Oi, who are you? Butcher demanded in an accusing tone. You're scaring my niece, and she got anxiety disorder, but she wants to see the race. So F off or you're gonna get clobbered. Something wrong? A random citizen asked. Yeah, this pedo was eyeing my niece like she was milk at a grocery store. Butcher tells him, and soon the Vought employee walks away apologizing furiously. After thanking the other citizen, Butcher stares back to the field as the tacky entrance music of Shockwave comes on. You must be important or did some real SHT. The Brit comments in low tone. Elena loosened her grip slightly, but still not letting go, and said thanks. With Ben. After M.M. mentioned something about checking out a new lead, Ben looked for a place to change. He needed a place with no cameras, luckily the bathrooms were free. After all, nobody wanted to miss the race, so they were empty. Going inside, he checked the stalls just to be safe. Hero time. He said, as he dialed through and pressed on the one he wanted. Race track. Ladies and gentlemen, please turn your attention to the track. The announced spoke. Please, clear the track. Ready. Both soups got down into their ready positions. Set. Both briefly stare at each other, confident they were gonna win. A gunshot was heard and they both took off. Beginning the race that was gonna last less than a second. But in reality it was gonna last longer, and the event changed. As they were on their 10th steps, with A-Train in a slight lead, neither of them looked behind to see XLR8 zooming in. First shoving Shockwave, then tripping A-Train with tail. Shockwave fell to his side and rolled, A-Train fell on his back. All while XLR8 ran the lap. What's my time? The Kineceleran asked, lifting up his visor after crossing the finish line. Ignoring the shocked murmurs and shouts, the world saw the alien clock nearly 400 meters per second. Boom baby! XLR8 said, doing the Usain Bolt victory pose. He got a mixture of cheers and boos. Who's the fastest? I'm the fastest. He said, doing a dance, ignoring the negative reactions he got. The alien then looked at the two down soups and said, "Look everybody." He shouts, the camera pointing at him and his face on the jumbotron. Shocklame and Lame Train are back up, to give you your main event. Instead of a half-second race, it's a showdown. XLR8 added, getting some cheers, thinking this was a good surprise. But not just me against them, no. The alien tells them. I invite any members of VOT or the Seven to take me on. This got a bunch of murmurings thinking he was suicidal. After all, I know I'm the only real hero, but might as well show you all. Pauses to turn back at an angry Shockwave and an angrier and roid-raged A-Train. Catch me if you can. Lowers the visor and begins running around with the other two following a bit behind. Ben had to hand it to them, they were pretty fast, but he was moving faster and thanks to practice was more in control. So in a fraction of a second he hit the brakes and went from over 800 miles to 0 in a second. This allowed for the other two speedsters to miss and pass him. Realizing their mistake, A-Train and Shockwave slowed to a stop and tried to turn back. Only to be met with XLR8 running at them, giving them each a lariat, sending them both back to the ground. When XLR8 stopped, he told them, "Quick feet, slow brains." Then runs off as the two get back up and chase after him. Only difference was they were slightly slower. In fact, this allowed the Kineceleran to slow down and conserve his energy. XLR8 could reach 1,000 miles per hour and it put a strain on his muscles after a while. But still, that was after a while, so why were they slowing down after just a short time? Realization just hit him. They're human. Sure, they may have powers, but the human body isn't built to go that fast without some drawback. XLR8 species was built and evolved to go this fast for whatever reason, humans know. Sure, they had powers, but that came from a DRG, no magic or technology of any kind involved. And DRGs have limits and side effects. So the longer they ran, the slower they became. Unfortunately, that was technically true for Ben, so he needed to keep them running while conserving his own energy. XLR8 turned around, then after dodging their hits ran to the center of the turf. I wonder how many steps I got in today. He wonders aloud. A-Train and Shockwave then run to XLR8, with the 7 speedster getting there first. Waiting at the last second, the alien moved to the side. Too slow. The Kineceleran comments, looking to where A-Train stopped. Thinking he had his ticket to the 7, Shockwave took a bit more time to try and sneak up on XLR8's back. Expecting this, Ben moved out of the way just like with A-Train, moving back to his previous position. The CYCL of the two soups charging at the alien, with their blows connecting air, continued. It naturally became easier for Ben since he only moved a little bit at the last moment. Meanwhile, A-Train and Shockwave got progressively slower with each failing blow. Like boxers who throw all their punches with maximum force only to hit air. Homelander gripped the handrail with an angry expression. Maeve mimicked this though with less obviousness. Moore was stoic. Starlight, after giving Huey her number, just looked in shock before making her way to the field. Frenchie and Huey were smiling as if they were watching a cartoon. Butcher too. Elena was in awe. A-Train was the one who kicked Marathon Man off his throne, now here he was losing to some alien lizard. Admittedly with a much better name though. Back to the fight. XLR8 was still dodging with ease, moving just out of reach at the last moment each time. After a while he began doing poses. Olé! XLR8 said, pretending he was a matador after Shockwave missed another attack. Then came A-Train and Ben did a ballerina pose on one leg. So ungraceful. A-Train came again, and when XLR8 dodged he began moving his arms like a train. You think you can, you think you can, you think you can, but won't. Thanks to BENs they were now much slower and it was much easier to dodge. Thanks to the combination of their lowering glucose levels, increasing exhaustion and their own incompetence they were now slower by a few hundred miles per hour. Dodges shockwave. I'm bored. The Kineceleran says with a yawn before taking off. At first the two speedsters didn't know where he went. But soon in a star-like formation XLR-8 tan at them and delivered a series of blows. Neither one could move as each hit kept them both off balance. In fact XLR-8 was going so fast there was a constant black and blue blur of a star. Until finally Ben did a kangaroo-like kick to Shockwave's abdomen and sent him flying into A-Train. The two only stopped after hitting the ground multiple times, like stones skipping water. A-Train got back up, Shockwave stayed down, though only one was on something. Two soups, two losers. XLR-8 taunted and A-Train runs at him at full speed. However, due to Ben's actions and the V wearing off, this was half his earlier speed from the beginning. And he was slower than Ben then. XLR-8 again moved to the side as the 7 hero stopped about 20 feet away from where Ben was standing before. The soup looked back and saw XLR-8 lift his visor. A-Train more like A-Train wreck. The alien shot, getting some "ohs" from the crowd. Angry A-Train tried to run at him again only for XLR-8 to beat him to the punch, or well kick. This is because XLR-8 ran at him, jumped and unleashed a series of rapid kicks to the soup's chest. Let's kick it up a notch. He spoke before delivering the last ones and breaking the reinforced plastic chest piece. Ben however didn't get to celebrate, since he had to move out of the way of Homelander's heat vision. Looking up he saw Homelander coming down, with the sun at his back, like he was trying to be some sort of deity or savior. He then heard thuds around him and saw Queen Maeve and Black Noir had opted to jump down. While Starlight simply walked through one of the entrances to the track, not having flight or major jumping capabilities. With Butcher. The Brit was glaring at Homelander intensely, that it looks really did kill, he'd be committing multiple murders and then some. Butcher, he's not really gonna fight them all, right? Huey asked, having turned on his mic again. Petit Benny is crazy if he does this. Frenchie commented. Unless one of you wankers can tell him to back off, then leave him be. Butcher said. Trust him. Elena looked up surprised by his confidence in Shifter. Could the 7 really lose? So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 4. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author AUFan62 on fanfiction.net. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video, till then goodbye.